Are we alone? This singular question has haunted and perplexed humanity for an eternity. As we gaze into a seemingly infinite cosmos, we are struck with a feeling of how small we truly are, all while feeling the sense of a wonder that someone or something, light years away, is looking at the same stars we are, wondering the same question. In 2052, the Virgo 2 lunar lander will touch down on the moon, and the USSA will finally get its answer. Welcome back to the channel, Wanderers. Today we have cracked open the Vault-Tec archive yet again and are discussing a long-forgotten war. One that took place not in America and not in Anchorage. A war that took place among the stars. We'll discuss how the war began, our adversaries, and why the outcome changed the fate of the world forever. Humanity has wrestled with our place in the universe for millennia. In the year 2077, all eyes went from the skies and the galaxies above, instead to being forced only to focus on the radioactive world we call home. Every main game in the Fallout franchise has featured beings we could not understand, creatures from beyond our planet. When did we contact these creatures? When did it begin? A species we call the Zetan, as well as one or two lesser-known species, have made their presence felt in post-war America. They come from an unknown planet and are immediately hostile upon contact. But why? Was this always their nature? Did they happen upon Earth when we were at our weakest and see an opportunity for an easy conquest? Or did they detect the immense levels of radiation emanating from Earth from deep within the cosmos itself and rush to our planet's aid in an attempt to help mankind, only to be met with aggression and violence? To attempt to get some answers, we take a look at the Museum of Freedom featured in Fallout 4. Once we make entry here, we see a large patriotic mural depicting several famous battlegrounds that America has taken part in. The most interesting portion of this mural depicts American soldiers in power armor on the moon, with a placard titled, "The Sea of Tranquility Conflict." This is the only time in any Fallout title that this particular battle is mentioned, so there's not a whole lot of information available to us. For example, we have no definitive date that the battle actually occurred. However, if we analyze the Fallout timeline, in 2052, the Resource Wars began. The Resource War, as I'm sure many of you are aware, was fought anywhere that resources could be found. It makes sense that the moon will be a prime target for the world's superpowers to aim to conquer, due to the moon's surface as well as asteroids surrounding the Earth are ripe with valuable metals, such as iron, nickel, and even platinum. July 16th, 1969. The Virgo 2 lunar lander became the first manned spacecraft to touch down on the moon. The crew consisted of Captain Richard Wade, Captain Mark Garris, and Captain Hagen. A small disclaimer here, but due to the relatively small amount of information on this battle, I feel it's important to let you know that a lot of this next portion is going to be going into some speculation and theory crafting about the actual battle itself. Shortly after landing on the moon, the USSA would set up a base of operations positioned in the Sea of Tranquility. They would make use of the Garden of Creation kit, otherwise known as the GEC. It's a device that contains a large seed supply as well as fertilizer supplements used to terraform a portion of the moon. This information comes from the Fallout Bible, which is no longer canon. However, it's important to note that the terminals in Vault 94 and Fallout 76 acknowledge the existence of such devices, as well as the fact that the Maya region itself in Fallout 76 is a direct result of a GEC device exploding and mutating the plants in the region. The GEC device is described as a fully functional terramorphing module capable of sustaining life even in a barren, post-apocalyptic wasteland. The Sea of Tranquility is in a region on the moon that can actually be seen from Earth with a telescope. With this in mind, most likely rivaling countries such as China launched their own force to try to wrestle the moon and its precious resources away from the USSA. After both forces began to clash on the moon, they would find something that would shock them to their cores. While on a scouting mission, the USSA would come into contact with a mysterious megastructure, the building resembling that of a factory or laboratory. They couldn't be sure. They would find themselves ambushed by a new species from a planet beyond our own system, Zetans, named after their own star system, Zeta Reticuli. They are essentially what conspiracy theorists would call the Greys. The aliens are relatively small, greenish-yellow colored. They have a elongated chest region and are extremely lean. Their legs are shorter and jointed differently than that of a human being, as well as their arms are elongated. They have very large heads in proportion to their smaller bodies, and their eyes are very large almond-shaped black pools with no evidence of an iris or pupils. Their hands of these beings have only 3 suction cup fingers with no thumbs. Despite being surprised by the presence of the aliens on the moon, the USSA managed to defeat the initial patrol they had encountered. Afterwards, they would reach out to the superiors back on Earth, requesting further instructions on whether they should or should not attempt to investigate the alien megastructure. After confirming with the Pentagon the threat, it was decided that given the moon's proximity to our own planet, that not investigating the structure would be a complete breach of national security. The team would head back to the Sea of Tranquility and regroup, formulating a plan on how best to lay siege to the alien megastructure. The attack would begin in 6 hours. The entire section of soldiers would be reinforced with Stingray Deluxe fighters, modified for space combat and stored at their lunar base. These fighters would be equipped with 4 cannons, missiles, and rocket pods. After heavy fighting and several casualties, including Captain Hagen, the USSA was victorious, and they were to enter the mysterious structure and begin searching every corner, carefully attempting to make sense of what they were seeing. It wasn't long before Captain Wade would find himself standing in front of an extremely large device that appeared to be some sort of containment device. Inside were several black-grayish, spider-like creatures, completely alien in nature. The team quickly pieced together that they were standing in the middle of an alien research facility. After stationing troops outside the facility, the USSA unit would return to the base of operations and report back to the Pentagon. It was under the direct orders of a mysterious subsection of the Pentagon that the USSA unit would remain on the moon, guarding the research facility. The subsection, calling themselves the Enclave, would send reinforcements, rations, and scientists to help study the alien creatures that the team had discovered. Shortly after arriving at the lunar base, an official from the Enclave would inform the captain that he and his team were now sworn to secrecy and never to speak a word of what they had seen on this mission. The spider-like creatures were stored in smaller containment devices labeled Specimen X001 and began to be loaded onto the Delta IX rocket. When Captain Richard Wade questioned where the creatures were being moved to, he was informed by the official that they were being moved to a vault in West Virginia for further study. Real quick, if you guys are enjoying the episode, be sure to give it a like and leave a sub if you guys want to catch more Fallout lore content, as well as if you want early access to our content or even playing alongside us here at Vault Zero on the custom worlds. Be sure to join our Patreon. It'll be linked down in the comments. One thing that neither Captain Wade nor Captain Garrett could shake was that they were not being told everything. It's strange. Despite them being shuttled back to Earth and being told that the moon was no longer of any interest to the United States government, they had noticed that the mysterious group calling themselves the Enclave were seen buzzing like bees in and out of the Zetans research facility. It was almost as if they were planning on staying. The Enclave would choose to stay on the moon because it was the perfect location for them to fulfill their ultimate goal, continuity of their own organization. With further planetary exploration near impossible at the current time, and rising tensions between the world's superpowers, it only made sense for them to remain in the one place that mutually assured destruction would be a non-factor. It wouldn't be long before the Enclave would begin reverse engineering the original MPLX Nova Surge pistol that the aliens, Zetans, had defended themselves with, and created their own brand of plasma weaponry. Zetan existence was acknowledged behind closed doors in the upper levels of the government and the Enclave long before the Sea of Tranquility conflict had taken place. The United States government had kept meticulous records on the subject of these beings and what the plan of attack was from the government. One such record pulled directly from the U.S. Pentagon reads as follows. Further investigations in the UFO codenamed Palendine have confirmed our suspicions. On the evening of May 3rd, 2062, an alien craft of an unknown make and origin did indeed breach airspace just north of Hagerstown, Maryland, and crash into a heavily wooded, non-residential area. Unfortunately, the multiple attempts to recover the craft has subsequently been unsuccessful. It simply could not be located, either due to advanced cloaking technology that was concealing the craft, or the occupants managed to complete hasty repairs on the craft and vacate the area. Despite the failure to recover the craft or its occupants, the significance of this event cannot be overstated. We are not alone. Now that we've established that the Enclave chose to stay on the moon in a secret base, we will take a deep look at the different types of aliens found in the Fallout universe. Since their arrival, the Zetans have spent a millennia abducting unwitting humans as well as animals such as livestock from farms from around the world. It seems that their mission initially was to observe humanity as well as also collect samples of modern human technology. Prior to the Sea of Tranquility conflict, the theories of the Zetans' goals ranged from monitoring our understanding of technology and energy manipulation to perhaps they were attempting to ensure our technology never made it to the nuclear stage in an attempt to stop us from self-destruction. Despite evidence pointing to the Zetans landing on Earth as early as the Japanese Edo period, their presence was not felt by the mainstream until after the abduction of Colonel Hartigan and the Clarabella 7 capsule from the United States in the 1960s. Conspiracy theorists would manage to get their hands on the MPLX Nova Surge, a prototype plasma pistol, in an attempt to validate the claims of the public that extraterrestrials were in fact walking among us. The weapon, however, was reclaimed by the Zetans, and the conspiracy group themselves were dismantled and imprisoned for their role in stealing classified property in the United States Air Force. Despite the government's best efforts, they would eventually have to face the reality that the American public had at least some awareness of the Zetans, especially given that the comics coming out at the time featured accurate depictions of them, even so going so far as to mention them by name. The Greys were closely compared to the Zetans. Their abductions became popularized by the story of Betty and Barney Hill, who were abducted in 1961. The couple provided vivid testimonies under hypnosis regression, and they were able to draw intricate star maps that were likened to that of Zeta Reticuli, spawning the name of Zetans. Critics, however, would dismiss the validity of hypnotic regression, also stating that the star maps by the couple did not accurately depict Zeta Reticuli. At 7:15 p.m. on September 1952, in the small town of Braxton, West Virginia, two brothers, Edward and Fred May, as well as their friend Tommy Heyer, saw a bright object streaking across the night sky. The object soared across the horizon and silently landed on the property of the local farmer, J. Bailey Fisher. After reporting the incident to the West Virginia National Guard, the search team was dispatched to the area in an attempt to locate the reported object. When the group got to the top of the hill overlooking the farm, they began to see a pulsing red light. The guardsman was pointing his flashlight at the red light. He quickly took a step back. In the beam of his light was a tall, man-like figure with a round, red face, surrounded by a pointed, hood-like shape. The Zetans at this point were operating through a network of agents that had captured individuals in the wilderness in the town of Flatwoods. They did this with the goal of experimentation. One unlucky soul was tasked with the construction of Vault 76. He was an assistant CEO of Vault Tech, and this will prove unfortunate, as he would also be captured. Between the years of 2064 and 2069, these alien agents would often be spotted and reported by locals in the small town, some of which even reported being abducted. These Zetan agents would soon come to be called the Flatwoods Monster. Next, we move on to an extremely obscure creature that, after much debate and study, the only rational conclusion that I can draw is that these creatures are in fact from beyond the stars. Wanamingos are extremely unusual creatures, first emerging in Appalachia in the early 22nd century, as well as New California in the first half of the 23rd century. What I think is extremely important to note here is that there has been much discussion about where these creatures originated, whether they were mutated from a species indigenous to these regions or if they are extraterrestrial. The argument for them being a direct result of mutation is the example of centaurs, which are grotesque creatures found in the Mojave as well as New California. These are direct results of mutation caused by the FEV virus. If a creature this unsightly can change its body so radically, it would stand to reason that the Wanamingos are another example of a mutated creature. However, the argument for the Wanamingos being alien is this: if it is indeed a mutated creature native to Earth, why does it bear no resemblance to the creatures that are native in that area? Even the most unsightly mutated creatures of the wasteland bear at least some resemblance to what they previously were before they were being bombarded by radiation. The centaurs, again, as terrifying and as grotesque as they are, still show that they were once human. You can see it by looking at them. The physiology of the Wanamingos is truly bizarre. They're fleshy, stout creatures with strange proportions. It has a short torso connected to 2 legs and 2 arms or tentacles, depending on the variant. Very large heads and unusually large mouths containing many needle-like teeth. Other anatomical details of these otherworldly creatures vary between the East and West Coast variants. It's imperative to understand that these creatures have but one queen, and they hatch from those eggs. The West Coast Wanamingos are found in New California. They have shiny, dark skin, similar to the xenomorphs in the Alien franchise. Their bodies are covered in a viscous slime, with no identifiable eyes or even a neck. They have a massive mouth lined with razor-sharp teeth. Their most striking feature is the large, flapping tentacles that they use to attack their prey. These are lined with suction feelers akin to that of a squid. The East Coast Wanamingo, found in Appalachia, have leathery skin. They also have a short body attached to stocky arms and legs. Very significantly, however, the tentacles of their counterpart are not present on these creatures. They do, however, have an extremely large head with large mouth lined with needle-sharp teeth. They have arms and claws traversing in a quadrupedal stance, opposite of their West Coast counterparts. The variation is known to have spines along the top of its head. Finally, we have the Wanamingo Queen, strikingly similar to the West Coast variant, except it's much larger and has a great body. Fortunately, only one is known to be in existence in the Wanamingo mine in Redding. Next, we're going to move on to Typhons. Typhons are hostile aliens that are being stored on both the Talos 1 space station and Bethesda's title Prey, as well as the Pythias moon base in the Prey DLC Moon Crash. Well, I know what you're wondering, why are you talking about Prey in a Fallout lore video? Well, I actually have done a video about Vault 96 in Fallout 76, and it actually theorized that the specimen X001 in Vault 96 is none other than a Typhon. Its ability to mimic the other mutations perfectly makes it the prime candidate to be the specimen in question. They are shimmering gray and black, and they can exist in a solid, gas, and liquid state all simultaneously, while easily changing the structure and solidity of their own bodies. They can take the shape of anything from the size of an arachnid to a large humanoid. Each Typhon species has different abilities, such as mimicking matter, telekinesis, shifting, the generation of fire, electricity, corrosive gas, and even mind control. It's my theory that after the Enclave arrived on the moon, they would take over the Zetan research post. They would move the Typhons that were being studied there by the Zetans and move them to Vault 96 for further study. I actually will link the video down in the description below so you guys can check that video out for yourselves. But that is going to do it for me, guys. I appreciate you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe for more Fallout lore, and check out the next episode where we discuss the Juggernaut Frank Horrigan.